Hi there, everyone. It's Miranda.
And it's Michelle. Welcome back.
Yeah, and today we are talking on the difference between mentoring and coaching.
Yes, because they're two different things.
Yeah,
and lots of times people get them confused.
Yeah, and people will use it interchangeably, almost like they're synonyms. And they're not. And you can have somebody that's both a mentor and a coach, but the two things are separate entities in and of themselves.
Yes, exactly. So we thought we'd start off today by just defining both of them for you. So when you look up dictionary.com, basic, right? What is the definition of a mentor? So you look it up and it says an experienced and trusted advisor. Okay? Now, when you look up, again, dictionary.com, what the definition of a coach is, that's a trainer or an instructor. So a mentor is somebody who is usually older than you, doesn't have to be, but usually older than you, someone who is experienced in what you want to do. So if you want to be a teacher, right, you would maybe seek out someone who's an experienced teacher, has maybe, studied the field, been in the field a long time, maybe won some awards, right, for their teaching and their experience. So you would talk to them and get their advice, right? How did they become a teacher? What are some of the pitfalls that they saw, right? Someone who is going to tell you their story.
Yeah. And I think that's the main. A mentor is someone, they're leading you by showing you what they did.
That's right.
Right? They're not starting your journey and being like, well, figure it out. Like, they're telling you, this is what I did and this is what worked for me and that kind of stuff.
Right. But they're not telling you, you have to do X, Y, Z in order to do this or whatever.
No.
They're just telling you their story, right? So when you're talking with a mentor, the mentor's doing most of the talking. They're explaining themselves. As opposed to a coach, right? The definition of a coach is a trainer or an instructor. Probably the most accessible example is an athletic coach, right? A football coach or a soccer coach or baseball coach, right? They aren't necessarily the greatest at what they do. I mean, they can be, right? They couldn't have won awards and all of that, but they don't have to be. I mean, you can be a soccer coach and be like, what's the equivalent of Little League for soccer?
Oh, I was going to say, my example was Ted Lasso. He coached American football and then went to coach European football, soccer, what we would call it. And I mean, he didn't know anything about the sport, but he still coached them, right? And he was still successful. There's 3 seasons now.
There you go, right? So what do you need to be a good, say, soccer coach, right? You need to know the rules of the game.
Yep.
Right? You need to be able to convey that to someone, right? And you need to be able to unlock the potential in that person.
Yeah.
Right?
You need to be a leader.
You need to be a leader. You need to be a leader.
And
exactly.
What do you know? That's what we talk about.
But it's very different than mentoring.
Yeah.
Right? Because the coach is trying to tap into the potential in the person, right? So when you're having a conversation with a coach, the coach is actually doing very little of the talking.
Yeah.
Right? The coach is there inspiring, right? Leading, and
pushing you past what you would normally do.
Right.
Right? So they're the ones that are sitting there over you, yelling at you, this is what you need to do and you need to do it now. Right? Because they're pushing you when you've lost that will, the motivation.
Or they're asking you questions to try to get you to think, right? Just don't give up on that, right? What should you do next, right? You need to solve XYZ problem, and you've come to me as your coach. Okay, let's sit down and take this problem apart. Tell me the first step, tell me the second step. What should you do? You're not telling them what to do. You're not telling them how you solved it. You're trying to get them to solve it themselves, right? So that's kind of the difference between the two. Now, can you be a coach and a mentor?
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
And you can be a coach and a mentor, I would argue, for the same person.
Yes.
Too.
Yes.
I think they're two separate things, but they share a lot of qualities. And I think that's why some people get them confused.
Yes.
Okay, and so we have some examples. So let's start with coaching. So Dune, right? An awesome book series. Also, really great movies. They're coming out with a new one soon.
Yep, Dune Part 2 in November, we hear. Teaser trailer's already out.
Yeah, really excited. But Paul Atreides has awesome coaches all around him. His dad, Leto, Gurney Halleck, Duncan Idaho, right? They're all coaching him and helping him become the next Duke, right? And they're pushing him when he doesn't want to, when he's tired, when he's annoyed. When
you watch the movie, and there's several movies, for those of you who don't know, there was one in the 1980s, there's a new one that just came out. But in talking about the movie, there's one really good scene where Paul is practicing with Gurney Halleck, using knives and weapons and fighting, right? And it is very much coaching, right? It is very much, this is what you need to do. You need to learn how to fight, right? And I'm going to be there to teach you. And if you haven't seen the movie, that is an awesome scene.
Because he goes at Paul is like, I'm really not in the mood. I really don't want to do this. We'll have to do it later. Gurney Halleck's like, you're not in the mood.
What's mood got to do with it?
Throws him a knife.
Exactly.
And just starts attacking him, so Paul has to fight.
But that's exactly what he's trying to do. He's, if you're going to be a Duke, and we're going to go to Arrakis, there's danger there. You have to learn how to fight, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. Yeah. Right? That's a coach, and you're going to practice. Right? You're going to practice.
And his dad, in one scene, right? Paul wants to go ahead to Arrakis, and his dad is like, no, that's not your job. Your job is to stay here and learn the politics with me, right? And same with Duncan Idaho. They have a back and forth of what Paul wants to do,
right,
and what he has to do to be a good Duke, and
to
learn how to be a good Duke. So they all push him out of his comfort zone into learning more, and they constantly teach him, and they're inputting more, and they're listening to his questions as he asks them about what he needs to do and why are we doing it this way versus this way, right? And it's a give and take, but it's a lot more pushing than if they were just straight mentors.
That's right. And there's a great scene when they get to Arrakis and Paul sits in on his first council meeting, right? Yeah. And some of the older people like Gurney Halleck are teasing him when he arrives and stuff. But they all know why he's there. He's there to learn, right? He's there to learn. He's there to watch. He's there to participate. Yep. So he can one day become Duke. So that is coaching.
Yeah.
Different from mentoring.
Yes. So our example of mentoring is The West Wing, which is a great show in and of itself. But Josh Lyman and Leo McGarry. Leo McGarry is the chief of staff for the White House. Josh Lyman is the deputy chief of staff, right? So Leo is Josh's boss. And he definitely tells him, like, no, you have to go sit in this meeting, right? Like, for his work, he tells him, this is what you got to do. But outside of work and for Josh's own career, for his personal life, Leo mentors him. This is my story. This is how I went about it. And there's this amazing scene that I think of. I forget what season it's in. But Leo Gary is a recovering alcoholic, and he battles with that throughout the series. But Josh Lyman is dealing with PTSD after a shooting, and he is struggling, and he's having all these issues, but he refuses to go see a therapist. And so Leo McGarry tells him, I'll go with you. But he says it in this amazing way that is like, I've been in this struggle before. This is what I did, and I really think it would help you. Right? And it's that vulnerability in showing him, like, you're not alone. Like, this happens, and we move with it, and we find what works, and we go forward. And that's what a mentor does, right? You show the person, this is what I did, this is how I became successful, this is how I overcame this problem. But you don't, there's not as much pushing involved as like with coaching. So yeah, that's our example for coaching.
And you can be both.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
And so when we were talking about this and we were coming up with examples, one that popped to mind is from a movie we just rewatched this weekend called The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
It is also a graphic novel.
Yes, also a graphic novel.
Both are fantastic.
Oh, yes. Highly recommend the movie. Highly recommend the movie. But it's, so for those of you who don't know what it is a group of people who get together in the early 1900s, just before World War I. And they are the superheroes of the Victorian age, right? So they are Alan Quatermain and Captain Nemo and Mina Harker and Dorian Gray and Tom Sawyer. And they form a league and they...
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's right, can't forget about him. So I won't give it away for you. Excellent movie, excellent set of books. But the character we're thinking of is Alan Quatermain. Here he is, this big hunter, right, from Africa, and he is teamed on the league in the league with Tom Sawyer, who's a young U.S. Secret Service agent who has come to England
to try and get ahead of this war that's brewing.
This war. We don't know what it is. It eventually will turn into World War I, right? But they don't want it crossing the Atlantic and coming to the United States. So he sees Alan Quatermain as someone he wants to emulate, right? Especially with his skills with a weapon. And so there's this sort of dynamic between Alan Quatermain and Tom Sawyer, where Alan Quatermain is trying to teach him how to shoot, right? And Tom Sawyer is just there with both his guns and
he's just shooting at
everyone. And there's one scene actually where they're in the streets of Paris and they're trying to capture Mr. Hyde, right? He's transformed into the monster. And Tom Sawyer just empties both his guns trying to hit Hyde, and he can't hit him at all.
Alan Quatermain says, if you can't do it with one bullet, don't do it at all.
That's right. And that stuck with me as something that, like, he's trying to teach this young boy that you just don't empty your bullets. You don't know where they're going to go, right? And so there's several times in the movie where he shows him that if you take your time and you try to shoot and you aim correctly and you account for the wind, and he's teaching him how to do this, right?
And he does it through both. He takes the time to sit and coach with him, literally doing a shooting practice.
That's right, on the Nautilus, right? When they surface for a time, he actually practices with him.
But then he also sits and tells him about his story, right? And how he came to be Alan Quatermain, right? And all this. And so it's that delicate balance of both.
Right.
Of showing him how he became Alan Quatermain and giving him the tools to become Tom Sawyer.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. It's that where the character is doing both. And it doesn't mean that all coaches are mentors and all mentors are coaches. Some of them can be the same and function as both, but I would say that's probably a rarity, right? It's usually people choose their coaches and people choose their mentors.
And you can have somebody that is a coach for one person and that same person is a mentor for another.
That's right.
You never know like what a person needs or what a person wants, because they may search out somebody and like Ted Lasso, like they may go to Ted Lasso and be like, oh, you're a great coach, but I want to be I want you to be my mentor.
It all depends on the skill set you're looking to obtain as well, right? So it's an interesting dynamic. It's something people often get confused. It's worth studying, and it's worth thinking about how you function in your life when you interact with people. Are you a mentor? Are you a coach? Are you functioning as both for people? Something to think about. And that's it, right? that's our thoughts on mentoring and coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a blog about it, so we'll link that
down below.
Blog post about that, so we'll link it down below. And
we also just started a Patreon, so if you want to check that out, we would really appreciate it. And I'll link that down below as well. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.